Incredible discovery. Sterile billionaire uncovers hidden baby in trash, transforming his life forever. The alley was dark, a slice of hidden chaos amid Chicago's bustling streets. Thomas Harrington, a man accustomed to the shimmering glow of success, felt inexplicably drawn into its depths. He zipped up his designer coat, bracing against the chill that seemed to seep into his very bones. Loneliness wrapped itself around him, thicker than the fog that hung in the air. His empire had grown beyond belief, yet here he was, feeling emptier than ever as he took a meticulous step into the shadowy crevice. A heart-wrenching cry pierced the silence. What in the world? He thought. Curiosity mingled with dread. He moved closer, peering into the trash-laden bin at the source of the sorrowful wails. To his utter shock, there she was, a tiny, frail baby girl, no more than a few weeks old, surrounded by debris and discarded dreams. Her face, scrunched and red, was streaked with tears, clutching the ragged remains of the world that had abandoned her. In that moment, something in Thomas shifted. The sterile billionaire, nestled in the arms of luxury, suddenly felt a surge of raw compassion, reminding him of the unconditional love his mother had poured into him growing up. I can't just leave her here, he thought, not fully grasping the entire spectrum of his emotions as he scooped her into his arms. I'm going to name you Lily. As he took Lily home that night, the echoes of his once parched heart began to stir with unfamiliar warmth. He bathed her in a peaceful glow, her laughter instantly filling his sprawling mansion, a place that had felt more like a beautiful cage than a home. For the first time in years, he really felt. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Days turned into weeks, and Thomas immersed himself in the kaleidoscope of family life. He ventured into the community, meeting single parents who were wading through treacherous waters. Their stories painted images of struggle and hope, contrasting strikingly with the polished, detached world he had created. He began pouring his resources into local charities, hoping to bridge that chasm, but many labeled him a disconnected millionaire. Each criticism stung, igniting an ember of doubt in him. Just as hope found roots, the ground began to quake under his feet. One afternoon, as he strolled the park with Lily, a woman appeared, Maria, the very mother who had brought Lily into this world. Her eyes sunken, filled with both despair and a flicker of fierce love. "That's my baby," she whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. The weight of that revelation crashed into Thomas like a tidal wave. How could he reconcile the fierce love he felt for Lily with the reality of her mother's desperate longing? Caught between love and moral obligation, Thomas stood frozen, the sounds of the city fading to nothing. In that moment, the question hung heavy in the air. Could he find a way to support both mother and child? He inhaled sharply, the reality of his complicated feelings tethered to a question of family that loomed larger than his wealth, a question that could forever change all their lives. The park buzzed with life, children laughing and couples strolling hand in hand, yet all Thomas could hear was the pounding of his own heart. Maria's voice echoed, a haunting melody of maternal desperation, pulling at the strings of his soul. He could see her trembling hands reaching out, yearning for the child they both loved, but in vastly different ways. As the world around him blurred, a flash of clarity surged forth. He realized the painful truth that wealth and privilege had never prepared him for. For all his success, he was now standing at a crossroads where emotion eclipsed logic. He could feel the warmth of Lily nestled against his chest, the innocent coos resonating against the backdrop of uncertainty, and it gripped him harder than any business deal ever could. "Why now?" he whispered, his voice barely breaking the barrier of the frigid air. He shot an agonizing glance at Maria, who had suddenly become a stranger in her own right, torn between the mother she was and the life she had lost. "I can help you," he suggested, tentative yet hopeful, recognizing the fragile life that hung delicately between them. Maria's eyes widened, both surprised and skeptical. "You don't understand," she began, but Thomas cut her off. "Please, tell me what to do. I've got resources, connections, anything you need. I can't give you back Lily, but I can support you." The desperate plea left his lips, a curious mix of altruism and urgency. Yet, as he spoke, doubt clouded his mind. Could he really forge a bond with a mother whose very essence had shaped his daughter's life? His mind raced, picturing how the public would perceive this. They'd already called him a disconnected millionaire. What would they think now? Would he become the villain in this tragic story? But as he glanced at Lily, who was blissfully unaware in her innocent naivete, he knew she deserved more than this turmoil. Maria nodded slowly, hesitant but willing to entertain the notion of hope. Maybe, she murmured. A spark flickered in her eyes, and for a moment, Thomas felt a fragile bridge being constructed between them. In the days that followed, every moment with Lily was steeped in tenderness and a growing understanding of the commitment he'd made, both to her and to Maria. Thomas worked tirelessly, finding social services and support groups for Maria and helping her find a job. He watched as she began to pull her life together, but insecurities lingered, nagging at him between moments of joy. Yet, with every step forward, there were moments that reminded him of the weight of their situation. It was never just about him. Whenever Maria had to leave after a visit, he'd catch the haunting glances exchanged as if they were all playing a part in an agonizing game of tug-of-war. Worry curled in his chest. Was he just prolonging the inevitable? One evening, as the sun set in beautiful hues outside his mansion, Thomas sat with Lily in his arms, the weight of her small body anchoring him to reality. He gently rocked her, caught up in thoughts. How could he keep both her and Maria in his life without tearing them apart? Just then, a message popped up on his phone, a legal notice regarding Lily's adoption. His breath hitched. Would he still be able to protect her? And what consequences would that have for Maria? As he stared at the screen, the gravity of the decision looming ahead felt more colossal than anything he had faced before. What was at stake? The question ricocheted in his mind, the pain of it lodging deep in his heart. He felt the clock ticking, the notion of time wrapping around them all. He inhaled sharply, his palms clammy against the soft fabric of Lily's blanket. He had a choice to make, and it could change everything. He felt the cold weight of the legal notice in his hand, its words blurring together as anxiety twisted in his gut. Keeping Lily, especially now, felt like walking on a tightrope. One misstep could lead to a plunge that would shatter not just his world, but Maria's as well. He shifted his focus back to the peaceful sight before him. Lily's small face was serene, her tiny fingers curling around his thumb. The moment felt rich with potential, filled with whispers of family ties and promises. Yet the storm brewing inside him threatened to overshadow this warmth. As exhaustion gnawed at him, Thomas decided to put the phone away for now. Instead, he cradled Lily closer, letting the rhythmic sound of her little breaths drown out the rest of the world. He could afford to pause, just for a moment, and absorb the reality he had chosen a merry dance of love, fear, and unexpected connections. The next morning, a crisp clarity filled the air when he woke up. It felt like destiny beckoning him to launch forward. He couldn't let fear cloud the chances they both had. And Maria, he worried she had been pulled too far into despair. How could he help her see that it was never too late to make a comeback? With resolve strengthening in his veins, he formulated a plan. He needed to bring Maria back into their shared reality, for better or worse. He wanted her to know they were a part of each other's lives, forever linked through Lily. On a bustling Saturday, Thomas invited Maria to the local community center where he had arranged a meeting with support groups for single mothers. Flowers bloomed vibrantly in the nearby park, and for a moment, he felt hopeful. As he approached Maria, her eyes flickered with uncertainty. But he had something to show her: pictures of Lily's laughter, her first steps, all those small moments that strung together to form their life. He spoke warmly about her achievements and how much joy she brought into their world. "You belong in this," Thomas said, his voice firm yet tender, longing to bridge the gap that had grown between them. "Lily needs both of us, and I think you need us too." Maria shifted uneasily, her shoulders tight as she crossed her arms. "You're just saying that because you feel guilty," she replied, a hint of anger breaking through the cracks of her vulnerability. "You don't have to take care of me," she added, her voice breaking slightly. I need to, he insisted. We're a team. I can't give you back your past, but maybe we can create something together, something for Lily. A flicker of hesitance crossed her face, but he reached out and clasped her hands, holding her gaze steady. You're strong, Maria. Stronger than you think. Imagine how much we can do not just for Lily, but for ourselves. For the first time, a glimmer of hope lit her eyes. Understanding, even joy, began to intermingle with her uncertainty. But as the conversation deepened, an unexpected voice squeezed into their moment. A woman at the edge of the crowd, a lawyer whom Thomas recognized, walked toward them with that unmistakable air of authority. Mr. Carter, may I have a word with you? Thomas's stomach dropped as he exchanged glances with Maria, sensing the ominous shift in the air. What did she want? Did she have more news about the adoption? Tension coiled tightly around him, and just like that, his fragile world felt on the brink of collapse again. With the air thick with uncertainty, he wondered how many layers of their complicated lives still needed unraveling. Would Maria take a chance on him now? Or would this be the moment everything shattered once more? Thomas took a deep breath, grounding himself as the lawyer approached, her heels clicking sharply against the polished floor of the community center. He felt Maria's grip on his hand tighten. The warmth of their shared moment, the flickers of hope, faded under the weight of impending news. Mr. Carter, the lawyer said, her tone clipped yet professional, we need to discuss the adoption process. Her eyes darted briefly to Maria, assessing the tension. It's urgent. The words pierced through Thomas's composure like an arrow. He took a step toward her, swallowing hard. Is it about Lily? What is going on? The lawyer hesitated, pulling her tablet closer to her chest, a screensaver flickering with images that felt like eavesdropping on his private life. There are complications with the birth parents' rights. They've expressed a desire to intervene. The breath caught in his throat, a vice tightening around his chest. His eyes darted to Maria, who looked devastated but determined. She wasn't going to let this happen. He could see it in her eyes, a fierce glimmer of defiance beneath the waves of heartbreak. What do you mean, intervene? He asked, a tremor of urgency slipping into his voice. They can't just take her away. The lawyer shifted, her mask of professionalism faltering for a brief moment, revealing a hint of empathy. I'm afraid they have legal standing, regardless of your emotional connection. You need to prepare for a court hearing. Maria stepped closer. This isn't fair. Lily is thriving with him. Her voice, though shaky, bore the weight of a new mother's protective instinct. The lawyer held up a hand, a gesture aimed at calming the growing storm. I understand this is distressing, but you need to be realistic. The biological parents have a legal right to contest any adoption until it's finalized. Frustrated tears pricked at the corners of Maria's eyes as she shifted her gaze back to Thomas, searching for the strength she needed. He felt the anger bubbling within him, fighting for control. The idea of losing Lily ignited a ferocity inside him that he hadn't known he possessed. Then we fight, Thomas declared, his voice rising with conviction. We don't back down. We have to prove to the court that Lily belongs with us. Maria nodded, the hint of a smile creeping onto her face through the fear. Yes, we can show them how happy she is, how much she has loved. The lawyer's brows knitted together, but Thomas could sense her reservations. This will be a difficult and emotional process. You need evidence, support from the community, everything you can gather to fortify your case. Without thinking, Thomas took a step forward. I'll do whatever it takes. I'll rally those around us, every friend, every neighbor. I want to stand by while they try to take her away. The fire ignited in both of them, a shared passion overshadowing the fear that had gripped them just moments before. They exchanged a look that spoke volumes of bond reaffirmed in determination. As the lawyer turned to leave, she said, I'll be in touch with the details, but you'll need to act quickly. The two had barely processed what had just happened, still reeling from the abrupt turn of events. Thomas's heart raced at the thought of a looming battle. But with Maria at his side, it didn't seem insurmountable. Together? Maria asked softly, her eyes brimming with newfound hope. Always, he affirmed, steeling his resolve. With Lily's future hanging in the balance, they were no longer just parents, they were warriors fighting for a family. But as they stepped together back into the crowded hall, a voice from behind caught their attention. It was a figure from Thomas's past. An old friend, face marked with concern, but carrying an envelope that looked distinctly ominous. Tom, there's something you need to see. A cold wave of fear washed over him again. What else could possibly be revealed? Thomas turned slowly, his heart plummeting as he recognized the face of an old friend, Marcus. They hadn't spoken in years, but the tightness in Marcus's jaw and the furrowed brow told him this was not a casual visit. Marcus? What are you doing here? Thomas asked, trying to mask the confusion swirling in his gut. Marcus stepped closer, glancing around as if he were afraid of being overheard. The hall buzzed with the chatter of community members, but the noise faded into a dull hum in Thomas's ears. Can we step outside? Marcus suggested, his voice low and urgent. Yeah, sure. They moved toward the exit, leaving Maria behind. The cool air hit Thomas like a splash of cold water, sharpening his senses as he followed Marcus to a quieter corner. Here, Marcus said, handing over the envelope, eyes scanning the area. You need to see this. Thomas hesitated before tearing open the flap. Inside was a stack of papers, documents, photographs, and something that looked like a court notice. He pulled out the top document and began to read, his brow furrowing deeper with each line. This is about Lily, he gasped, the words feeling like a bullet in his chest. What is this? It's about her biological parents, Marcus said quietly, leaning in closer. They're claiming they never gave up their rights. This could change everything. The wind seemed to leave Thomas's lungs. He felt Maria's fierce hope dying, crushed by this unexpected revelation. But they signed the papers. I've got proof. This can't be happening. I don't know what to tell you, man, Marcus replied, his own voice tight with tension. But they've got legal representation, and they're looking to fight for custody. This paperwork is just the beginning. You need to prepare yourself. Thomas's mind raced. The feeling of uncertainty wrapped around him tightly. What do I do now? Get your own lawyer. Fast. And gather any evidence you can that shows you've been a stable and loving parent. Photos, community support, everything. Anguish clawed at Thomas's chest. The thought of losing Lily was unimaginable. She was their world, their treasure. The happiness she had brought into their home felt fragile now, as if it could shatter at any moment. Do you have anyone who can vouch for your time with her? Marcus asked, shifting his weight. Community members, friends, even family? Yeah, we have people. Maria's sister, our neighbors, everyone knows how much we love her. Marcus nodded, urgency in his eyes. Then you need to mobilize them, Tom. This is going to be a tough battle. Don't underestimate them. They'll fight to get her back. What if it's not enough? Thomas said, his voice breaking. If anyone can do this, it's you. Together with Maria. Fight like hell for her. Thomas felt a surge of determination. He couldn't let fear seep in. Not now. You're right. We'll fight. I won't back down without a battle. Keep this under wraps for now. I don't want anyone else getting wind of this until you're ready, Marcus warned. Thanks for bringing this to me, Thomas said, trying to mask the trembling fear in his heart. I owe you. As Marcus walked away, Thomas turned back to the community center. Maria would be waiting, her smile maybe dimmed by worry. He needed to be strong for her and for Lily. Moments later, Maria approached, her expression shifting as she saw his face. What was that about? Thomas hesitated. How could he share this crushing weight? With just a deep breath, he nodded, his resolve hardening. We've got a fight on our hands. But before he could explain, he noticed the eyes of a passerby fixated on him, their expression heavy with recognition. Thomas? Is it you? I've been looking for you. The figure stepped closer, revealing an anxious past he'd hoped to forget. What more trouble awaited him now? Thomas's heart raced as the familiar figure walked closer. It was Rachel, someone he had never thought he'd see again. They'd shared laughter and dreams long ago, but time and distance had turned those memories into something bittersweet. Now, the urgency in her voice pulled him back into a reality he wasn't ready to face. Rachel, he said, managing to catch his breath. What are you doing here? I could ask you the same, she replied, a tremor beneath her calm facade. I heard about Lily. He felt the ground shift beneath him. You heard? From whom? From some mutual acquaintances. News travels fast in a small town, she replied, glancing around, her expression tense. But listen, there's something you need to know. This isn't just about Lily. It goes deeper. What do you mean? His voice tightened, fear threading through him once again. Rachel took a deep breath before continuing. Lily's biological parents, they have connections. They're fighting this with more than just emotions. You need to protect her, save her from being dragged into a situation she didn't choose. Thomas felt like a punch had knocked the air from his lungs. Rachel's warning was unclear, but the urgency rang loud. What kind of connections? What do you know? She lowered her voice, pulling him a bit further away from the bustling center. They have an attorney who specializes in custody battles, really ruthless. If you think this is just a paperwork issue, it's not. They're determined. This isn't just a matter of legality. It's about influence. His mind spun. Why should they have any say in a girl they abandoned? I've been her dad since day one. Rachel met his gaze, her eyes filled with a mix of sympathy and urgency. And that's exactly why you have to fight for her now, more than ever. You can't let them have the upper hand. What are you suggesting? Thomas felt a lump in his throat. I can't lose her, Rachel. She has everything. We need to gather support, leverage your ties. You have a whole community behind you. Use it. Tell your story. Connect with people who have a history with you and Lily. Everyone who knows you can testify to her life with you, she insisted. He nodded, urgency igniting a fire within him. You're right. We Thomas. Maria's voice broke through their conversation. She rushed over, a storm of concern in her eyes. What is happening? You look like you've seen a ghost. Rachel stepped back, suddenly shy, but there was no escaping the truth now. Thomas motioned for Maria to come closer, the weight of his decision heavy. It's about Lily. Her parents want her back. They're fighting for custody. Maria's face paling made Thomas's heart twist. What? How is that possible? Rachel gave him a meaningful look, then abruptly turned away. Thomas felt the tension in the air as Maria clutched his arm tighter. We need to act, and fast. As they stood there, the noise of the community center swelled around them. But Thomas felt distant from it all. His world was crumbling beneath him once again. In that moment, he knew they wouldn't be able to fight this battle alone. They needed a plan. People were counting on them. And the realization struck that this wasn't just about having someone to stand with them, but about securing a future for Lily. Resolutely, Thomas took a deep breath. We have to call everyone. Reach out to anyone who can help. Family, friends, co-workers, no one should be left out. As Maria nodded, the realization hit him like a bolt of lightning. They were stepping into a storm, and there was no turning back. Together they would fight, not just for Lily, but for themselves. But before he could call Maria's sister or anyone else, he spotted Rachel standing by the exit, her expression torn between concern and a silent plea. Wait, he called after her, feeling something more unspoken hung in the air more than just Lily's fate. What other secrets was Rachel hiding, and how would they change the battle ahead? Thomas sprinted after Rachel, his breath catching in his throat. The way she stood there, half-turned, made the knot in his stomach twist tighter. He had so many questions, all swirling in his mind, but he sensed this moment was fragile. He needed her to stay, to tell him everything. Rachel, please. He called again, urgency coating his words. She stopped and hesitated, her shoulders tense. I shouldn't be here, Thomas. Her eyes darted toward the door, clearly fighting some internal battle. Why? You just told me something monumental. You can't back out now. He stepped closer, his heart pounding. If there's more at stake, I need to know. Rachel turned to face him, her face a mixture of fear and resolve. Those parents, Lily's biological parents, they have money, power. You don't know what they'll do to win her back. I've seen it happen. Families torn apart because of legal games. It's ruthless. Thomas felt cold fear creeping again. He had always imagined they'd stay a family, that he could protect Lily. Now, the weight of Rachel's words pressed down on him. What do you mean you've seen it happen? Did you deal with a situation like this? Rachel's gaze hardened, memories flickering like shadows behind her eyes. There was a girl. I was close with her adoptive parents, and well, it didn't end well. They were blindsided. Every plan they had fell apart. I couldn't just stand by and let that happen again. A pang shot through Thomas. He could feel the urgency of Rachel's message settling deep in his bones. He had to fight for Lily like he never had before. Then we need to prepare ourselves. How do I arm myself against this? I can help, she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. But it's not just about legal strategies. You need to gather emotional backing. Reach people's hearts. Speak out about your life with Lily. Your bond. That is powerful. Maria, who had been quietly watching the exchange, stepped forward. I know a few local reporters. Maybe they could help us get the story out. Thomas nodded, feeling a flicker of hope that maybe this was a stepping stone rather than a brick wall. Yes, that would be a start. We need to gather every bit of support we can find. Rachel stepped back into their space, her expression firm but compassionate. You're going to need a team. Agreed. We need everyone, Thomas said, determination growing like a flame inside him. Family, friends, anyone who knows how much Lily means to us. I can call my sister, Maria offered. She's always willing to help when it comes to Lily. And I know she can rally others. As they formulated their plan, the reality of the battle ahead loomed large. They walked back into the crowded community center, urgency wrapping around them like an electric current. Thomas could feel every flutter of hope surging within him, but it came tethered to the weight of fear. They were all in this together, but the fight had only just begun. Turning toward the bustling crowd, looking for familiar faces, he felt a gentle hand squeeze his shoulder. It was Rachel again, her expression serious. Remember, Thomas, this isn't just about a custody battle. It's about what kind of family Lily deserves. Stay strong. Don't let them undermine your love for her. At that moment, Thomas realized how pivotal this journey would be not only for Lily, but for him as a father shapes the life of his child. Each voice mattered, every story woven, and every connection made could become their strongest weapon. As Thomas began to take action, he felt another weight pulling on his heart. Rachel. Why was she really here? How had this affected her? There was more to her than she was revealing. Rachel, can we talk more? She shook her head slightly, glancing around as if searching for someone. Not now. Later. Just promise you'll keep fighting. And just as she turned to leave, he felt panic rise. Wait, what else are you hiding? But she disappeared into the crowd, leaving a wake of unanswered questions and echoes of urgency behind her. Now, alongside the dread of losing Lily, another concern flickered. What did Rachel know that could change everything? Thomas stood frozen, the crowd around him blurring into a haze of noise and movement. His heart raced as Rachel's figure faded into the throng. Why did she keep holding back? What was she afraid of? He felt the familiar knot tighten in his stomach, but there was no time to dwell on it now. Lily needed him more than ever. He turned back to Maria, who had been watching him with concern. We need to get moving, he said, steeling himself. Let us find your sister and figure out our next steps. They navigated through the bustling community center, the sounds of laughter and chatter wrapping around them like a thick blanket. It felt surreal in contrast to the storm brewing in his mind. As they approached the exit, Maria pulled out her phone to make the call, and Thomas looked around, taking a moment to absorb everything: the smiling faces, the laughter, the community that had gathered for support. He wished he could bottle that feeling, that sense of belonging. But he couldn't. He shake off the feeling of unease gnawing at him. That Maria's voice broke through his thoughts. She's on her way. We'll meet her outside. He smiled at her enthusiasm, grateful for her unwavering support. She had always been the glue holding things together for them. And now, more than ever, he knew they were a team. They stepped outside, the fresh air hitting him like a wave. It felt cleansing. He inhaled deeply, trying to shake off the lingering anxiety. Thanks for being here, Maria. I really appreciate it. Of course, Thomas, she replied, her eyes bright with determination. This isn't just about paperwork or lawyers. This is about love, and we won't let anyone take that away. Just then, a voice cut through the air. Thomas. He turned to see Maria's sister, Claire, rushing toward them, her long hair flying and her face etched with urgency. What is the plan? I heard about the situation. Are we getting the media involved? Claire asked, her tone both intense and supportive. Yes, Thomas replied, feeling a surge of hope. We need to get our story out there. We're preparing to fight for Lily's right to stay with us. The three of them huddled together, exchanging ideas and strategies. Stories of Lily and how loved she was spilled from their lips like a powerful spell. They shared moments of laughter, her first steps, the way she sang in the bathtub. Those memories formed a shield around them, a reminder of what was at stake. As their conversation flowed, Thomas felt pieces of the puzzle starting to fit together. But the specter of Rachel's worry still loomed in the back of his mind. What if the biological parents didn't just have money and power, What if they had connections that could sway public perception? Would their love for Lily be enough to overpower that? Claire, do you think we could organize a community gathering? Something to open up about Lily and get her story out there? He suggested, hoping for a spark. Absolutely, Claire replied. We could invite everyone who knows and loves her. The more, the better. We can show people who she really is. Just then, a thought struck Thomas. And what about Rachel? She knows more about these parents. Maybe she can use her experience to help us. But his heart sank. Where was Rachel? Had he pushed her away by pressuring her for answers? As if reading his thoughts, Maria said softly, "Don't worry. She cares about Lily, whether she wants to admit it or not." Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from behind them. Everyone turned toward the commotion. There, a group of people had gathered around a commotion near the side of the building. Thomas felt a pull towards it, an almost instinctual urging. "We need to see what is happening," he said, leading the charge. As they approached, the crowd grew animated, voices rising in excitement. A woman was shouting, pointing at something on the ground. Thomas could feel the tension set in as they drew nearer. "What on earth is going on?" Claire muttered as they pushed through the crowd. The tension amplified as they finally caught sight of what everyone was looking at. And then Thomas's breath caught in his throat. There, lying at the edge of the fray, was something that looked both shocking and familiar. "What is that?" he gasped, his heart racing. But before they could wrap their heads around it, a voice emerged from the back of the crowd, chilling Thomas to his core. "That's our daughter." He turned to see two stern figures emerging from the crowd, their eyes piercing through him like daggers. "We're here to claim her," one of them declared, pointing directly at the object on the ground. And in that moment, everything shifted. The fight for Lily was no longer just a battle for custody. It was a fight against the very forces that could tear their family apart. Would they be strong enough to face this new threat? Thomas's heart pounded against his ribcage. He couldn't move. The crowd, once a blur of laughter and light, now felt like a tightening noose. "Our daughter?" The words hung in the air, heavy with implication. He glanced at Maria and Claire, their faces reflecting a blend of disbelief and renewed determination. "What do they mean?" Claire whispered as she clutched Maria's arm. "I don't know," Thomas said, his voice barely above a whisper. "But we need to find out." He stepped forward, pushing through the throng as if his heart guided him. The couple stood at the edge of the gathered strangers, their presence an immovable wall. One had short-cropped hair and an iron grip on the arm of a woman who wore oversized sunglasses despite the fading light. They exuded a kind of wealth that made Thomas's stomach churn. "Who are you?" he demanded, his voice steadier than he felt. The man looked him up and down dismissively. "I'm Nathaniel Wright, and this is my wife, Claire. That child," he gestured broadly, "is our biological daughter." Thomas felt the room spin. "No, that's Lily. She has been with us since she was born," he said, frustration bubbling to the surface. "You can't just come here and claim her." The woman, Claire, finally spoke. "We didn't know she'd been taken. It was a mistake, a series of unfortunate events that led to her placement." Her tone was calm, but there was an edge of desperation there. "We only want to understand our rights as her biological parents." "Rights?" Maria shot back, stepping between Thomas and the couple. "You abandoned her." The crowd began to stir, whispers rolling like waves, mixing with the shadows of uncertainty. Thomas's mind raced. The parents had money, power. He felt the weight of that looming over him like a dark cloud. It stirred something deep within him, a fight igniting in his chest. "Listen," Thomas said, looking straight into Nathaniel's cold eyes. "You might think that because you have wealth, you can just take her back, but it doesn't work that way. She has a family." As the words left his lips, the rush of memory flooded through him. The first time he held Lily, the laughter that echoed in their home, the way she called him daddy with a look of adoration that melted his heart. He felt the knot tighten in his throat again. For a moment, Nathaniel seemed taken aback. "A family?" he scoffed, bitterness draping his words. "You mean a couple of poor fools with no stability?" A series of murmurs passed through the bystanders, gathering like storm clouds. Thomas's anger surged. It struck him then their love for Lily was their strength, not their weakness. He could feel the support of Maria and Claire flanking him, the solidarity thick in the air. "Yeah, we might not have your money," Thomas said, his voice rising now, "but we have love. That counts for something, doesn't it?" Love one tea, keep her fed, Nathaniel shot back. We'll find a way, Thomas declared, fueled by the hope that had once felt so distant. And if it means rallying this community to fight for her, then that's what we'll do. At that moment, he could see the spark of determination reflected in the eyes of his friends, but even more so in the faces of those around them. This wasn't just about them anymore. It was about everyone who loved Lily. Suddenly, without warning, Claire pulled out her phone and began to record. I'll get this all on video, she said, urgency in her voice. We'll share your faces, your names. The world will know what you're trying to do. The couple exchanged glances filled with panic. You can't, Nathaniel commanded, his voice suddenly sharp, but Thomas stepped closer, the gravity of the moment urging him on. Try us. Our story deserves to be heard. Just then, the laughter they had shared earlier felt like a distant memory, replaced instead by the echoed cries of strangers. Somewhere in the crowd, a child broke into tears, the sound piercing through the chaos and settling on Thomas's heart, reminding him of what truly mattered. The fight was just beginning, and as they prepared their stance together, his mind whirled with one burning question. What lengths would he have to go to keep his family intact? But as he looked back at the couple, determination in their eyes, he knew one thing was clear: this would be a battle worth fighting, even against those who believed love could be negotiated. What kind of sacrifices would they have to make to keep Lily safe? The crowd buzzed with tension. Thomas stood strong, facing the two strangers who claimed to be Lily's biological parents. Nathaniel's arrogance screamed privilege, while Claire's mask of power barely hid the underlying desperation. Thomas felt the community shifting, whispers swirling around like a gusty wind. But this wasn't the moment to falter. Maria's hand squeezed his tightly, grounding him. Love is what matters, she whispered fiercely. I won't let you take her, Thomas asserted, the passion in his heart roaring to life. He looked around at the faces, some filled with concern, others with unwavering support. Lily is not just a name on paper. She is our daughter, our joy. Nathaniel scoffed, preparing to retort, but Thomas pressed on, his voice echoing off the brick walls of the community center. You left her. You let the world think you weren't ready for her. You're not going to waltz back in and take her because it suits you now. I understand your anger, Nathaniel sneered, restoring a bit of his composure. But we are her real family. We have the means to give her everything. Everything. A voice broke through the tension. It was Claire, Maria's sister, stepping forward, phone recording every word. Money can't buy the love and security Thomas has given her, or the home she knows. This is our family, and we stand united. Thomas turned to Maria, the fierce glint in her eyes fueling his resolve. We've got this, he reassured her, taking a step closer to Nathaniel. We'll show you how many people love Lily. Today, we're sharing our lives together. The crowd began to murmur, some nodding in agreement, others pulled in by curiosity. Their support felt like a symphony lifting him higher. Let us invite the community, share our love for Lily, and show the world she belongs with us. Yes, shouted a voice from the crowd. We're with you. It was one voice amidst the sea that's all it took to ignite something powerful. Others joined in, echoing support, fanning the flames of hope. Thomas felt warmth rise in his chest. This was not a battle where he stood alone. They were gathering, every face showing solidarity, a shared understanding that family is more than blood. Thomas squared his shoulders, heart pounding. Tomorrow, we're holding a gathering in the park. Everyone who loves her, who knows what she means to this community, is invited. We'll show you what true family looks like. Nathaniel's face soured. You think a few stories will keep her from us? Yes. Someone shouted from behind Thomas, followed by others who had come forward. We believe in love over money. This is ours, Maria added, her voice steady. And we'll do whatever it takes to keep her. The tension rippled through the gathering, hearts pounding in unison. Thomas felt alive, driven by the ferocity of their belief. When they joined strength, it formed a bond that couldn't be broken. Let us start making calls, Thomas said, rallying them into motion. Every friend, every neighbor, everyone who cares. We're not just going to fight, we're going to show them who Lily really is. Not just a child in a courtroom, but a beloved daughter. As excitement spread, Thomas caught a glimpse of Rachel over the heads of the crowd, her expression contemplative yet fierce. She approached cautiously, making her way back into the mix. "I can help you," she declared, her voice steady, as Maria looked back, hope igniting within them again. "What do you know?" Thomas asked, steeling himself for her answer. "I have contacts in media. We can get the story trending. People want to hear about families fighting for love. This isn't just a custody battle. It's about keeping her where she's meant to be." Each word felt like a lifeline. With their community rallying behind them, Thomas realized they would move mountains together, showing the court and the world who Lily belonged with. They spent the night setting their plans into motion. Phone calls were made, messages spread, and the emotions that intertwined their lives fortified their mission. The next day dawned, golden and alive, echoing the hope and love that filled the air. Families gathered at the park, sharing their bonds with Lily. Thomas took a moment, looking over faces, friends, neighbors, those who knew the laughter of their home, the warmth of Lily's presence. "Are you ready?" Maria asked, her eyes shining bright with anticipation as she held Lily in her arms, the sweet child oblivious to the storm around her. Thomas gripped her hand tightly, his heart radiating with hope. More than ever, at that moment, as a photographer began snapping pictures, the crowd broke into shared laughter, sharing their stories of the beautiful girl who had changed everything. A delicious home-cooked feast filled the park, reminding them all that love goes beyond material things. Through support, their bond became undeniable. As the sun dipped low over the horizon, casting a warm golden glow, Thomas looked at Maria and Lily, seeing their smiles reflecting back at him. They were a family, and their love would stand resolute against any challenge. Together, he breathed, feeling the world turn in his favor. The moment felt complete, but the fight would continue. They were all in, ready to face the courtroom with undeniable love as their armor. And as they stood there, an unwavering force ready to protect their unique bond, Thomas knew Lily was not just a part of their lives. She was the embodiment of strength, love, and a future they would fiercely protect. Now, it's your turn. You need to subscribe now to catch all the latest updates and exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and spread the love. I want to hear you comment below with your feelings about this ending. And share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to witness this incredible journey of transformation. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait, not even one more second.